All right, everybody, good evening. Thank you for showing up at this special City Council meeting. I will now call the special City Council meeting of Thursday, May 7, 2026 to order. Assistant Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Campbell. Here. Councilmember Whitford.
Here.
Councilmember Foster. Councilmember Von Wilper.
Meeting speakers may address the council during public comment and also in connection with a specific item of business on the agenda. However, the city must make sure that no one person or group of people disrupt the meeting in a way that prohibits other speakers from expressing their ideas and opinions. So to make sure that everyone here has an opportunity to address the council, I will alert an individual or individuals if I think their conduct becomes disruptive. If the disruption continues, I will rule the individual out of order. If the disruption continues further, I will declare a recess. We can restore order. At that point, the individual will leave the room. If the individual refuses, police will escort the individual out of the building. If we have to repeat the process of warning and discussing the meeting, all members of the public will be excused from chambers. Central media will be allowed to remain. Once again, we have to conduct the public spaces. And frankly, to show respect to the members of the public who chose to spend their Thursday evening here in chambers, unlike other fun things they could have been doing. So respect their time when you think about when you offer your testimony. So with that, Assistant Clerk, please go over how the public can offer their testimony.
I will now highlight the slide on the screen that reviews how the public can offer their public testimony during this evening's meeting. The order can be found on the agenda summary found online or at the table in the back of the room. If you are in person, please complete a speaker slip located at the entrance of chambers and bring it to the front of the room. Council ambassadors are available near the entrance of chambers and can assist with questions and speaker slips. No further in-person testimony will be taken once the council begins virtual testimony. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you. So with that, please introduce item 600.
Item 600 is phased implementation exempting non-transit oriented development areas.
All right, I see staff is seated. When you're ready, introduce yourselves for the record and let us know how much time you need for the presentation.
Good evening, council members. My name is Grant Barodi. I'm a senior planner with the City Planning Department. I'm here with Seth and Heidi Baumblum, City Planning Director. I am presenting the City Planning Department's proposed Senate Bill 79 phase implementation, and it'll be about 15 minutes.
All right.
Pursuant to the requirements of the bill, the City Council needs very high fire severity zones, sites with designated historic resources, and on sites up to a 1-foot sea level rise, and to exempt areas from SB 79 applicability. Today, the City Planning Department is proposing an ordinance to phase the implementation of SB 79 and exempt certain areas from SB 79 implementation. SB 79 was signed by Governor Newsom on October 10, 2025, and seeks to address the state's housing shortage, create homeownership opportunities, and to build more homes near transit. SB 79's requirements are generally consistent with the policies included in the city's general plan, including the housing element, which calls for more housing options throughout the city, and the city's climate action plan, calling for more homes and jobs located near transit. SB 79 requires the city to approve certain housing developments within a half-mile radius of qualifying transit stops, which are called transit-oriented developments, or TOD stops, on sites that are zoned for residential, mixed use, or commercial development. The half-mile areas are calculated as a straight line distance, or as the crow flies, and are referred to as TOD zones. The bill requires that SANDAC create a map of TOD stops and zones within the city. While the city plan staff has created several SB 79 maps, TOD stops are subject to confirmation from SANDAC's maps of designated TOD stops. The bill splits the TOD zones into two areas. The first is within a quarter mile of a TOD stop, and the second is between a quarter and a half mile of a TOD stop. It requires greater density in larger buildings the closer a site is to a qualifying transit stop, with the greatest density in the largest buildings on sites that are within 200 feet. SB 79 provides the city with several implementation options, including the phasing in and exemption of certain areas of the city, along with the TOD alternative plan that can comprehensively implement a phased implementation approach. Such a plan would allow the city to determine optimal locations for future development around TOD stops and incorporate the feedback from community members into the city's SB 79 implementation. Thoughtfully planning for new growth through a TOD alternative plan can help the implementation of SB 79 benefit San Diego. Addressing fire risk and sea level rise will help to improve public safety, and phasing the implementation of SB 79 low resource areas allows the city additional time to address infrastructure needs while furthering fair housing by allowing more homes in moderate, high, and highest resource areas that may not have similar needs first. It's important to note that this type of more thoughtful planning was specifically anticipated in SB 79, which provides for this planning and the development of TOD alternative plans. This process also allows the city to more responsibly plan and anticipate for growth in a manner that can be most efficiently served with municipal services, such as fire, police, and trash collection. SB 79 allows the city to exempt areas where a walking path of less than 1 mile from eligible sites of TOD stops does not exist. While all TOD zones are located within a half mile of TOD stops or as the crow flies, non-TOD sites do not have a walking path of 1 mile or less from these stops due to physical barriers such as canyons and freeways. Allowing development further from TOD stops would not lead to actual transit-oriented development. To ensure the development allowed under SB 79 provides opportunities for future community members to access TOD stops, the City Planning Department proposed ordinance would exempt those areas from SB 79 implementation. These areas would not be affected by the implementation of the bill or be included in a TOD alternative plan. It's important to remember that the intent of SB 79 is to spur transit-oriented development, and areas outside of a 1 mile walking distance from these stops are not transit-oriented. The City Planning Department also calculated the areas without a walking path of 1 mile or less, taking into account areas should include safe, public accessible sidewalks to qualify for SB 79 implementation. SB 79 permits a phased implementation in low resource areas as identified by the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee in low resource areas prior to 2031 to ensure that the SB 79 densities are addressed. Phasing the implementation is designed primarily to focus housing development in areas with access to opportunity prior to being implemented in low resource areas. In very high fire severity zones adopted by the City Council in August 2025. Because the are in these very high fire severity zones, the department recommends a phased implementation through a TOD alternative plan to address fire safety. The TOD alternative plan allows the city to ensure the development required by SB 79 with the most fire risk, like those areas that only have a single evacuation route. SB 79 also permits a phased implementation on sites containing historic resources that were designated as of January 1st, 2025. On these sites with a TOD alternative plan to ensure the city's newly adopted historic preservation regulations can be taken into account. Phased implementation is vulnerable to a 1-foot sea level rise. As shown on the map attached to the staff report, the areas affected by a 1-foot sea level rise are on the western side of Mission Valley. The phased implementation of these areas would occur as part of a TOD alternative plan to address climate resiliency. Starting on July 1st, SB 79 will take effect on all qualifying sites. This means the default densities will apply in all commercial, mixed-use, and residential zones. If the proposed ordinance is approved, only areas outside of low resource areas that do not include designated historic resources are not subject to a sea level rise, and not in very high fire severity zones would take effect on July 1st. These areas are marked in yellow on the map and constitute approximately 22% of the areas within TOD zones citywide. After approval of the proposed ordinance phasing the implementation of SB 79 and exempting specified areas, if HED determines that revisions are necessary, the city may amend the ordinance to address HED's comments, or adopt a resolution affirming the ordinance and explaining the city's rationale for why its actions comply with SB 79. And HED's review is not required to be. The City Planning Department also plans to prepare a TOD alternative plan to implement SB 79, which will include amendments to the municipal code, zoning, community plans, and the general plan. The TOD alternative plan will be provided. The department anticipates that they can bring this item forward later this year. To recommend to the City Council the approval of an ordinance exempting areas and phasing implementation of SB 79 within TOD zone citywide, inclusive of low resource areas. The motion further recommends that should a TOD alternative plan not be returned to the Planning Commission by May 2027 for consideration. Phase implementation of SB 79 as proposed by City Planning staff, and to exempt as provided for in SB 79. This concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. Clerk, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to note that this item received 281 comments in favor and 19 comments in opposition via our e-comment form, which had been distributed to City Council. The public comment period is now open. We received 43 speaker slips from individuals in chambers and currently have 6 hands up from those attending virtually. We will go to 1 minute per person. Just a friendly reminder to individuals ceding time to please raise your hand when I call your name so we're able to account for the slips that you submitted. We will begin with Doreen Diaz Pesta. You have time ceded to you by Terry Fowler, Kimberly Roberts, Shirley Hughes. Thank you. You will have 4 minutes.
Please don't stop my, oh, thank you. Who is going to control my projector? Don't stop my time. Okay, can I go like this, just to slide? Okay, so this, before you, I don't want to waste time waiting for my slides. Thank you so much. So we can scroll this one. Okay, the most important thing for Hammershaw right now is that we have a low resource area and naturally occurring affordable homes. We still have some 3-bedroom homes, 2-bath, garage, front yard, backyard, renting at $2,300, which is the same rate of those horrible AU bonus. We 13th, 2026 memo spoke about Lemon Grove, and I didn't see it during this presentation or you updated. But because Lemon Grove is 35K, they're only required to go a half a mile. And going, quarter of a mile. Going a quarter of a mile affects 17 homes in Hammershaw. And going a half a mile affects 307 low resource homes. So different 1,700, 307. I took a photo. That blue dot is the Lemon Grove station. If you look there, they are all single family homes exclusively. There's no vacant lots. So if you check, we are CTCAC low resource area. 17 streets are affected. That's Hammershaw. I'll skip that. I don't have much time. All of our streets are 2-lane streets, lined on both sides with cars. We do not have any 4-lane streets. They are narrow streets, and of the 17 streets, we have 15 of those streets have most of the homes, and only a few streets have partial of the homes, and in these 2 sectors. So over with the city of Lemon Grove so that we can go 1/4 of a mile. There is no other neighborhood affected by the Massachusetts trolley station except for the Hammershaw neighborhood. It doesn't affect Encanto, it doesn't affect Broadway, it is exclusively us, and we are low income. And we have a lot of steep hills. I sent you all an email that I would give you all a personal tour in my car to show you and let you walk up these hills yourself if you wanted to see how steep they are. All of us, we either drive to the trolley station before we get dropped off on the trolley
in the back, so if they're in the hallway or the bathroom, they can hear the testimony going forward. So I just want you to be assured that everybody is listening to every comment, irrespective of whether they're in a seat or they're just standing up.
Thank you, Council President. You have time ceded to you by Susan Baldwin. Thank you. Please start your comments.
I am in favor of staff's recommendation to phase in implementation of SB 79, particularly as it regards low resource areas. Additional amenities should be in place before upzoning low resource areas because amenities determine who is willing to move into a community. Low resource areas need an increase in that capacity before adding more people. Investments in them must be of sufficient scale and prominence to signal the stability that changes the avoidance loop of higher income residents. This does not happen by changing who lives there immediately, but by changing what the place means as a residential address, so that over time it can attract a broader income mix and the resources that come with it. SB 79 confronts us with generations of inequitable planning in our land use system. The full 5-year phase-in is likely necessary to get this right. Thank you.
Please come up. And following Ethan forward, Zach DeFazio Farrell. If you can please come up as well. Just take a seat on the front row reserve seat. You'll have 1 minute.
Good evening, Honorable Council President Makaba and City Council members. My name is Ethan Paul, and I'm here on behalf of Build a Steed, a grassroots organization focused on documented construction and development here in our community. San Diego has invested in fast, frequent, and reliable bus routes, but so many of my friends and family can't afford and don't have the opportunity to live in the communities that these routes have been built in. If we want more clean, safe, and affordable places for our friends and family to live, the city should take this opportunity and recognize that the buses and stops on El Cajon Boulevard and University Avenue qualify as Tier 2 transit stops. We at Build a Steed hope your decision today helps make that future a more affordable one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Zach DeFazio Farrell, please come up. You have time ceded to you by Daniel Castelli. Please raise your hand. Giselle Gupta, thank you. Von Hertuni, thank you. Jason Vance, thank you. Manuel Rodriguez, thank you. Jeffrey Crow, Paul Jameson, thank you. Carlisle Dockery, no Carlisle, okay. Krishna Hammond, thank you. Chloe Lard, thank you. Stephanie Pelayo, thank you. Guthrie Leonard, thank you. Lucy Lowerker, thank you. Maxwell Gergen, thank you. Okay, there. Blaine Wagner, thank you. Paul Cortez, thank you. Hunter Bashaw, thank you. You'll have 15 minutes. Please proceed with your comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, members of the council. Of the UV Democrats of San Diego County and a member of the Law and Policy team. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is good. So, kind of a rhetorical question, why are we here today? We have an ordinance. The issue for us is that the city's current interpretation of how this will be phased only recognizes for transit-oriented development, TOD, qualifying bus stops. Yet we believe that there are actually 48 bus stops they have left out of their interpretation. And so there should be a total of 52. We sent a formal letter to the council asking if you to reconsider, particularly recital these stops qualify. Okay, so the text of SB 79 requires a full-time dedicated bus lane or operation in a separate right-of-way dedicated stop to qualify for Tier 2 D upzoning. As I mentioned, we disagree with city staff's interpretation. We don't think it's consistent with California law, nor is it supported by the city's own stated goals to increase housing production. And as we have come to understand it, the staff's argument is that these bus lanes allow bikes and right turns from other vehicles, like private vehicles at intersections, and thus they do not qualify as dedicated bus lanes. Next slide, please. So there are 3 disputed corridors in question. Well, the first is the El Cajon Boulevard busway that goes from El Cajon Boulevard or Park Boulevard all the way to roughly Fairmont. The second is University Avenue from Florida Street to Boundary Street, and Park Boulevard going from Yuba Street to City College approximately. Next slide, please. So how do these disputed corridors qualify as full-time dedicated bus lanes? Let's break this one down. Next slide. Argument number 1. The disputed bus lanes are factually full-time. Next slide, please. So disputed corridors feature full-time bus lanes because they exist 24 hours of the day. They are not only to be used during peak hours. So this is a clear distinction from bus lanes that might be used during rush hour traffic or something to that effect. And there's a sign there in that photo that says the bus lane on Park Boulevard south of Yuba Street, one of the ones I mentioned. Notice that sign says the bus is only 24 hours. It is a full-time bus lane. Next slide, please. Argument number 2. Existing state law permits bikes and other vehicles in dedicated bus lanes when authorized. Next slide, please. So the staff said the disputed corridors don't qualify because they allow right turns and bikes, as I mentioned. However, the California Vehicle Code explicitly states that lanes with these features still qualify as transit only, which includes bus only. And there are various sort of subdivisions of the vehicle code that allow cities, relevant jurisdictions, and relevant transit agencies to establish transit lanes together and to authorize different kinds of vehicles to use those lanes. And it does not remove their qualifying nature as some kind of bus or transit lane. And so 3 of the corridors we're talking about, all of them allow private vehicles to pass through them to make a right turn at an intersection, and the El Cajon Boulevard busway and the University Avenue bus lanes allow bicyclists to use those bus lanes as well as buses. However, this does not mean that they are not full-time dedicated bus lanes. Next slide, please. Argument number 3, Sandbag's dedicated lanes definition allows non-bus vehicles and modes. Next slide, please. So Sandbag has their own definition of what they say are that dedicated lanes are for preferential or exclusive use of transit services, permitting limited use by other vehicles, services, and modes, right? And all of these lanes do permit, again, some kind of co-use. Within SB 79 do not require explicit exclusivity for bus lanes. Next slide, please. So SB 79 itself, specifically when it comes to the Tier 2 sort of tier of bus lane standards, doesn't say anything about these bus lanes having to physically exclude other kinds of vehicles or bicycles or anything of that nature from using them in order to qualify. It does do so for Tier 1, none of which does not apply to any of these corridors here. But notice that for Tier 1, what's required are separate rights of way from which all of vehicular and foot traffic. It's incorrect, essentially, to read into a meaning the legislature chose not to include. Next slide, please. Thus, we can make a very strong case here that disputed corridors qualify as full lanes. They're full-time, they are dedicated according to state law and according to the city's own definition, and they are bus lanes. Next slide, please. We'll go into some supporting evidence. Next slide, please. city documents that state they are dedicated and they are bus only. And there's a number of them. This is a non-exhaustive list. The City Transportation Department memo from May 2019, which studied the El Cajon, it was a pilot project for the El Cajon Boulevard bus lane before they were implemented the following year. We have MTS's website saying it was a joint project between MTS, Sandag, and the City of San Diego, and for University Avenue Mobility Project, which is what the University Avenue bus lanes were called as part of a larger project. Those documents, the city's engineering department, called them transit-only lanes along University Avenue, and they were marked as bus only. Next slide, please. When it comes to implementing SB 79, they are not designated. When it comes to implementing SB 79, they are not designated them as dedicated bus lanes. Next slide, please. And then bus lanes. Next slide, please. And then we've got HTDs, got SB 79 in various tiers, and what they see here on the left, Tier 2 TOD stops, 6 housing goals, and we do now, tonight, we do now, and then this is a map here by a group called Bill SD, which includes all of the 52 stops along the 3 corridors. You can see sort of the blob in the middle there. Next slide, please. And then the risk of getting this wrong, right? I mean, essentially, we've had a little back and forth between San Diego and the current governor of California, starting January. Denying qualifying projects in high risk. Which is a situation I don't think any of us want the city of San Diego to be in. So our take on this is correcting this interpretation tonight can prevent problems on one. And we certainly would not want to be in a position where the governor attempts to pull funding because we're not complying with state law. Next slide, please. So we do want to ask you again to please consider amending recital E of tonight's ordinance so that it's consistent with state law and that it's. Thank you very much.
Just for the record, we did receive a speaker slip ceding time to Zach DeFoster Farrell from Anar Salia. Thank you. The next speaker is Chuck Peters. Please make your way up to the lectern. You have time ceded to you by Dana Gibbett. Thank you. Ken Henrich. Maria Henrich. Thank you. Yvonne Jones. Thank you. Pamela Beagle. Thank you. Kelly Tremeling. Thank you. Dale Viamonte. I see. Thank you. Neil Winner. Thank you. Angela Desi. Thank you. Thank you. You'll have 13 minutes.
Great, thank you, council members. I know you're working on the budget, and we need to get this done basically in order to meet the July 1st deadline. And by doing that, it retains the flexibility that the city needs to continue to annualize the capacity that we have with our existing zoning and our existing overlay programs, and then develop a further transit alternative plan and do other actions. One of the things that I think is important is that, and we, with deference to the reference to the previous presentation, we don't have a final map from Sandag yet, and I think one of the things we've done with the resolution and the ordinance is it is flexible as to it being an overlay on whatever the final determination of the map is. We think that the city's map is generally accurate. There'll be some adjustments because you have to get the exact positions of the stations and their expense identified in order to draw the 200 feet areas around it, the half-mile areas around it. But in general, we think that what was presented in the staff memo is fairly close to what we're going to see with the final map. One of the questions, though, that because we're waiting for this final map, what do developers do in the interim? I mean, as soon as the ordinance goes into effect, and people start applying for projects, and that'll be an issue. I think it's written that way. One of the things we are unclear about is when we talk about the effective date being 30 days from the final adoption of the ordinance. Does that mean that projects still aren't allowed to be submitted until July 1st, or projects will be submitted until July 1st, or projects will be submitted even before the July 1st? And so we'd like some clarity to that question, just to know exactly what we're doing there. If you go to the next slide, I think I covered that one. So, in the state, and look, what the planning department is proposing is a fairly conservative approach to this, a measured approach to this. And I think a lot of noise has been made about how either the city is shirking its responsibility or delaying or exempting. The state law was written to allow cities to take a very complicated law and implement a phased approach. And that's exactly what the city is proposing here. So, again, we think that's the right approach. One of the key issues, and there wasn't sufficient time to do the full calculation, is there's a calculation that you do in order to determine how much additional density you need to create through your transit alternative plan. And the calculation that's in the staff report just shows the underlying zone capacity. So that's the 494,000 units that are already zoned within SB 79 areas versus the calculated target of 861,000. Well, that remaining 367,000, when we get done with the complete community calculation alone, will probably exceed that 361,000. And so one of the things that will come out of this is, in a lot of these transit zones, we will have already satisfied the requirements of SB 79. And I think this comes up a lot where we say, well, we haven't built all this, but this is a zoning process, not a building process. And so even though it looks like we haven't built all this capacity that we created, we have created this capacity. And with all deference to the governor, San Diego was way ahead of the rest of the state when it came to creating transit-oriented capacity. If you go to the next slide, so SB 79 in a lot of ways is like complete communities. But if you really look at the difference, complete communities, even in the coastal zone, exceeds the minimum requirements of SB 79. And if you go anywhere else in the city, you can look at that in that area, Claremont, University City, Mission Valley. In those areas, we already allow under complete communities, we already allow a floor area ratio of 4.0, which is actually what the maximum would be 200 feet from the station under SB 79. And we allow, if you do a rough calculation of assuming 800 square foot units, which is fairly generous, 160 units per acre in the major area where this is going to be impacted. And that exceeds the 140 ton, not just to go into minimum density areas, so complete communities is a minimum of 20 units per acre. And SB 79 doesn't have any threshold, so where SB 79 developments are going to leak out, and this was a big reason for including the low resource areas, is it's gonna leak out is that, and, you know, it'll be harder to do land acquisition requirements, for, if you get, not only is the area that was shown by the previous speaker, generally, it's also areas that are already covered by complete communities. So we're actually asking, in some ways, SB 79 is a down zone in the mid-city area. And certainly when you get downtown, you know, nobody's going to use SB 79 to build a building downtown. They don't even use complete communities because of the significant density that we've already created in these places. So we've really done pretty much all the work. The only thing I'm going to say about the transit stops is, and we actually met with Scott Wiener's staff when they were going through the bill to get clarification of this, and they were clear that they didn't consider shared bus bike lanes to be eligible for SB 79. In their mind, it was dedicated bus lanes. The way to think about these dedicated bus lanes, it's a train on tires, right? It's the idea is that you create this capacity, bus capacity, so that people can quickly move along these dedicated busways, not just to get to the next block on the street, but to get to where job centers are. And just in the same way that we don't put bikes on train tracks, on the trolley tracks, the idea is that they wouldn't be allowed on bus rapid transit routes either. So, again, we'll wait to see what the final determination is from Sandag, but I think it's still going to align closely with this. If you go to the next slide, I'm not going to say a lot about what the Planning Commission proposed, but I think one of the things that's key is they disregarded the capacity that we're already able to create in these areas. Complete Communities already covers all of the transit stops that are in districts 8, 9, and 4. And so, you know, we think they were kind of pushing for something that we can already accommodate in the interim until we get the transit-oriented alternative plan completed. If you go to the next slide, and I'll just make one other comment. You know, again, this characterization that we're sort of slacking off with this proposal, you know, it doesn't hold against the fact that we've already done this years ahead of the rest of the state, and therefore that gives us, I think, the leeway to proceed with this in a measured and sensible way. Again, just some recommendations. And again, we support the ordinance as it's being presented to you today. We hope that the council will move that forward. We would like clarification as to what the real effective date for projects is, and maybe it's already baked into the ordinance, but it sounded to us as if, you know, you get done with this now, and in 2 weeks, you know, that it might be, you know, middle of June before it went in place. Now we're only talking a couple of weeks at that point. So maybe. Another thing, though, to consider is what happens if the state legislature decides to postpone the go-live date for SB 70. That's asking that this be extended January 1st of 2027. And I think a lot of that's really just a recognition of just how hard it is to do it. But I commend the planning department for being able to get all this work done so quickly and you know, putting us in a position where we can work through the rest of the details afterwards. There was some, I just wanted to call out also, today you're just approving the memo and we need to get that done. I mean, the ordinance, we need to get that done. I do think it's worth looking back now after we get this done at the February 13th memo. And I think there were a lot of good suggestions that the planning department had, because we've been through the technical details of what it means to do a 1 mile walking path to transit. The staff recommended a fix that I think addresses the Hammond-Shaw situation, not just during the period when we're restricting low resource areas, but beyond that. So I just think there's a lot of thoughtful material in there that we think would be good to send forward. And with all things, there's kind of the concept of good planning and good design, and the state often puts requirements for objective design standards in these laws, and then hopefully at some point we'll look at those as well. Again, I thank you for your time tonight. Maybe you get more people here if you have bobbleheads. That might be something to consider going forward. But otherwise, thank you for your time.
At least you can call us bobbleheads.
Well, the following, we have 4 speakers and in-person speakers remaining in chambers. Will the following individuals make their way to the front seat of the chambers? That is Paul Coogan. We have allegedly Audra, Paul Kruger, and Mary Soriano. Paul Coogan, you have time ceded to you by Christian Anderson. Thank you. Please make your way up to the lectern, and you may proceed with your comments. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Paul Coogan. I'm Secretary of the City Charter's Community Planners Committee. The CBC supports the Planning Department's original phased implementation approach and urges the City Council to adopt it without the Planning Commission's amendments, which would undermine the city's ability to phase implementation responsibly. A measured phase-in, particularly in low-resource communities and high-fire severity zones, allows the city to align infrastructure, safety planning, and community impacts before increasing density. San Diego has seen what happens when density policies are implemented too quickly without sufficient planning, whether through ADU bonus outcomes or neighborhood-level parking and infrastructure strain. These are lessons learned, not obstacles to progress. The prudent path is to use the flexibility provided to implement what state law requires and allows, including the alternate TOD. CBC respectfully urges you to adopt staff recommendations as proposed without amendment and to adjust implementation if the state modifies or delays the law. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have our next speaker, allegedly Audra. You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, there's significant. You guys have 4 people on the dais right now. They're in the back. Again, you don't have a quorum.
You already made a statement about that, so please proceed with your comment.
So you can do business without a quorum all the time, on a regular basis.
That's how you want to use your comment.
So you guys continue to do business illegally when you don't have a quorum. I've called this out several times. You've escorted me out by the police. How are you guys doing business like this when you do not have a quorum? I'd like to use my time elsewhere, but it's like, I don't know how many times I need to see this happen and have you continue business when I've invoked Robert's Rules of Order. The police have witnessed this, and you guys continue business. This is why you can't be trusted. Especially when we're talking about a bill from Scott Wiener, who's a pedophile. That's a problem. And the fact that you guys have done without a quorum.
Thank you for your time. Your time is elapsed.
You can't address it and say that we don't have a quorum and we can continue business. You literally have to stop the meeting.
Audra, please.
Can you please address this? Because this continues to happen and it's illegal for you to continue to do business, Joe. Not going to the bathroom. Act right up here. I'm serious. This is very concerning when this is the 3rd time. Not only yesterday, you did it 3 times.
Okay, you're going to make me do this. This is your first word.
Right. Because I'm addressing the rules of conduct and without a quorum.
Okay, all these people out here are patiently spending their
They
first
don't
day
have
out
a
there.
quorum. They can't do business like this. That is illegal. They have to have 5 people up there.
Don't make me do this. You've made your point. We're moving on. So,
So are you not going to address Vivian? You just left everyone
Audra.
without a quorum.
turn the mic. Do you want to be escorted out again?
Let's
Off
do
Monday?
it, because you guys keep continuing to do business illegally, and yet you are making me the criminal because I'm addressing it, when you guys know you cannot do business with 4 people up there.
You've made your point.
Again, I've made my
I'm
point
gonna-
that you are acting and conducting business illegally.
Detail.
In school, they already escorted me out once today. Because you guys can't do business legally. And you want to act like I am the predator.
I didn't say that. You're
No, that's what
disrupting.
you're doing, because you are doing business illegally, and yet we're paying the police $17 million more dollars so that you can kick me out when I am addressing the conduct of your business. Again, you cannot do business without a quorum. Why are you guys continuing to ignore this?
Gentlemen.
So are you saying you can't? Is that what you're saying? That fuck you, we can do it? That's the way it goes, right? When people call you out.
Okay, we're
working
going to leave
illegally,
the dais right now and do this work.
why not? Because what they're doing is illegal and you know it. You guys, like, they're doing business illegally, and they're coming after me for pointing it out. This is the 3rd time over the last several meetings that they have done this. Yesterday, or the day before, whatever, it was 3 times that they did this. You can't do business this way. And this is why you cannot trust them, because look at this is $17 million coming after the people to silence you. And this is why the world is like it is, because these people think that they can go and do whatever they want and take your money and do it. That should concern you. But no, I'm the criminal, and I'm the one that needs to be escorted out because they can't do business legally. None of their decisions or anything that takes place during this time can take place if you don't have a quorum. Like, it's common sense. And you guys, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, not this.
You can come
I
back
don't
again and
care.
argue it.
They can't do business like that.
You gotta find someone to make that complaint if you have to. But
Why?
it's not
Because
to
why
do.
are you coming after? What am I doing that's illegal?
You're disrupting a government meeting. 403 of the Penal Code.
Okay.
So let's get going,
19,
because they still have to talk,
42.
and we have to
Oh
finish
my
this
God.
meeting. Okay, they gotta finish the meeting.
Wow. I look forward to coming back and exposing this continually, because you guys are full of shit and you want to sit here.
You next time. Drive safe.
So here we are again for the 3rd time in the city of San Diego, where I have called them out for not having a quorum. Like, how many times can this possibly happen? And they kick me out and continue to do business. And it's funny because people in the audience are like, yeah, and they're filming me. Yeah, oh my gosh, you're right. They can't do business like that. But we're just gonna sit here and we are going to pretend like nothing happened because we still want to speak. You think they give a shit about what you have to say? You think that these people are going to do things in your best interest? This item today has to do with SB 79. Scott Wiener, who is a pedophile and brings bills forward like SB 145, who makes it so that, you know, if you're 10 years older and, you know, a minor wants to consent to having sex with an adult, it's cool, right? And it's not sexual assault. And also, I mean, many other fraudulent bills that have had to do with affordable housing and whatnot, but it's very interesting that we can have people supporting pedophiles in our legislature, where they think that they are competent to bring forward bills that have to do with anything that would be bettering our lives. So definitely interesting. The third time I've been threatened with arrest, and yeah, so it's interesting fighting a battle alone. And yeah, I even asked some guys for some time that they had left over, and the guy's like, "Don't do it, don't give it to her." You know, because truth is damaging. That's why you have to be ostracized and kicked out, and you know, treated as a villain and as though you're a criminal. Because I'm violating a penal code of disrupting a meeting. You know how many arrests I've had for that? 3. So I'm sure I'm going to have another one on my belt at some point in time. I look forward to doing that. Have some other things I have to do right now, so I'm, you know, whatever. But the city of San Diego, and just San Diego in general, is so void of anything good. This is the place where the homeless come to sleep at night. In fact, I'm sure we can go right over here. Let's just see. And see if there are some just sitting right outside. You know, just hoping to get help, but can't. So maybe we'll go talk to them. Look at this, yes. Yes, look, see? This is where they're waiting, because eventually they're going to fill this whole space right here. And then in the morning, partnership come at 6 a.m. so that nobody sees them. Nobody sees people that like die on these steps right here, right before a meeting. So it is so wonderful that people who speak the truth and want to better the lives of people around us are targeted and treated as criminals. And so it's fantastic. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday. And there's going to be more enjoyment tomorrow. In fact, I had a very interesting morning going to the federal courthouse, dealing with the lawsuit, the federal lawsuit between the city downtown partnership, Dreams for Change, and the participants of the Tent City and Safe Sleeping Program. And the city was trying to assert that they have immunity, that these people are not in a shelter. Basically, that would mean Tent City is like a huge encampment that should be, you know, the police should be there and arresting people because we're not allowed to be in encampments, and we have to, if you don't want shelter, then you're going to go to jail. You know, the world around us is just so great, isn't it? And so it was interesting to see the city saying all of these things and trying to dismiss the case. And luckily, this federal judge, Judge Schulper, was ruling in favor mostly for the participants and the victims in the city and the homeless from what the city's doing, along with these contracts with like downtown partnership. Like I said, they're the ones that get like $20 million contracts to clean up the city of San Diego and also do part of Tent City. And they're the ones that come in and clean everybody out and make sure that they're not here because it's an eyesore. And Todd Gloria's got to really make sure that people believe that he's so there are 7 to 8 litigants. A couple of things were dismissed for certain litigants, but it's looking good, and I look forward to seeing more discovery and kind of what information comes forward, because again, like the city's trying to ascertain and say that, or stipulate that the site is not a shelter. And that's just tents, and that people are just, you know, there. And it's not like open to the public. It's not a public service, right? It's just for, you know, people they want to kill. Anyway, so I guess I'm done on my rant. Hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I will see you